This summer, a lot of people are going on vacation, as a lot of us are thinking about some rest and relaxation opportunities at the beach, or maybe you're going to the Paris Summer Olympics, wherever you may be going this summer. Maybe you're wondering before you go on vacation about your budget. Like, have I been able to afford this vacation, or are you thinking about it after? You're listening to the Investing Mastermind podcast. I'm Michelle Markey.
And I'm Signe and
The question we're going to talk about today is, it's great to be able to go on vacation, but what about the impact that going on vacation may have on one's wallet? That's sort of a question that we're kind of just going to spitball because it's a summer and this is a sort of personal finance topic. And I just was sort of thinking about it because I'm trying to get a feel for the economy. Like, are more people willing to still spend money, like go on a road trip, or are they taking flights to Europe for the Olympics, or where are people going? And I'd seen articles about how there's been a lot of American tourists who like going to Europe and spending their money there. So you would hope that the world economy is doing well, and hopefully that's good for people because it means they have hopefully enough money to afford it. But what if this was like the last hurrah? So what if people going to Disney World is like the last time they can afford going to Disney World, and then next year they're not really able to go because they're just priced out. Like the Disney World tickets are just too expensive to afford for the normal middle class family. These are topics I'm just sort of wondering about. So, what do you think about this high level topic of making a budget for your vacation?
Well, I love this topic because I used to be that type of person that would not plan anything. And oh my goodness, now it's summer holidays or it's Christmas. I actually have to pay Christmas presents and go back to the family. And when I was in my early 20s, that's how I lived my life. I didn't plan ahead. So eventually it became so painful to live a lifestyle like that that actually changed. But I do know a lot of people, it's never gotten so painful that they did change and are just, not planning for holidays. So for me, I have savings now where I save up to, and one of my priorities is actually traveling. So when I was in my early 20s, I also found out, okay, there's certain things I want to prioritize out of my budget. What do I actually want to spend my money on? And traveling is one of those things where actually I enjoy doing it and it's something I want to spend my money on. So instead of buying cappuccinos or, buying takeaway food, or like I used to live a life where I would do everything, and now I prioritize. So it's not that important to me to do some of those things, but it is important for me to travel, and it's also important for me, at least now that I'm older. When I was younger, it was different, but now that I'm older, I must admit I also do like that it's comfortable. I do like also like certain kind of hotels and all that stuff that's actually a little bit more pricier than earlier on. But I also do have the money to actually do that. So that's different from when I was younger, and I didn't plan, but I could also stay in a cheaper hotel. And now, yeah, I just plan better. And actually, I always have a saving, so I do have enough money to go traveling. That's something that's important for me. How about you, Michelle?
Yeah, I also prioritize traveling, and I'm sure you also look for deals. Like there are smart ways that we can enjoy, somewhat finer. We don't have to go for the lowest quality, cheapest place there is. If we plan ahead of time and early enough, we can potentially find good deals that we can afford to stay at a higher quality place because we're not doing it last minute. So it pays sometimes to work on one's vacation plan several months in advance, and you won't feel as stressed. It won't feel as just like a surprise when you paid for something. Like the difference between someone planning a vacation in a week or less, and they're like, oh, I don't care how much it costs, I'm just going to charge it to my credit card. Whatever happens, whatever incidentals, I'll just buy it wherever I buy it. Without planning ahead, people will potentially pay a lot more than they could have if they had taken more time to try to think about some of these things ahead of time of what really would be needed on this trip. And like, it since I think we are frequent travelers, I've come up with a few little tips that I like to do. Like, I always bring a reusable water bottle and I fill it up in the airport somewhere, whether it's at a restaurant or at a water station in the airport. So some people might just buy whatever the water is in the airport and it's going to be expensive naturally. But I save in that way by bringing a reusable water bottle, and I try to give that tip to other people who didn't know that they could bring a bottle that's empty into the airport. So there are so many ways to kind of be cost conscious of what one's travel expenses are. And I've known some people that would go on vacations and they didn't really think through what their expenses would be. And they're always kind of behind. Like, they just keep piling on the expenses of their vacations in addition to everyday life expenses onto running credit card balances, which I've never done since I first got credit cards when I was a teenager. So I've always been responsible. And the way I think of it as, because I'm frugal in nature, I don't inherently have to worry too much about how much my vacation is going to cost because I know that I will plan ahead and I will make good cost conscious decisions. Like, I'll look for flights that are not too crazy of an expense and I'll find a reasonable flight at reasonable prices that won't break my bank at the end of the time when the bill comes due. I'll find a way that I don't regret the expenses I did because I was very cost conscious of exactly what I'm spending on. And if we identify what we're comfortable with ahead of time, we can better control it. Like, I'll look for restaurants where the entree prices are not too crazy. So we can look things like that up ahead of time on places like Google reviews or Yelp. If we see the menu of a restaurant, we can try to make better decisions than just walking by somewhere and seeing the decor and the atmosphere and just being like, "Oh, that place looks nice. Let's go there," without looking at the menu. And when I was in Greece last year, it was nice that the menus of a lot of restaurants were displayed on the outside so we could see ahead of time before we sat down, okay, this is a sneak peek of the menu. Do the prices seem reasonable? And that helped to keep costs somewhat reasonable for eating out, because when you're on vacation and eating out, those expenses can quickly add up faster than we imagine. Like, our normal everyday lives, we could be at home and we usually maybe source our food from the grocery store, so it keeps costs low. But when you're on vacation, you don't have probably a refrigerator and a little kitchenette that you're cooking your own food in from a grocery store. So when you're by default having to eat out for your breakfast or lunch and dinner, I try to be cost conscientious about those things and try to keep my expenses low when I'm on vacation and enjoying those things. But I don't scrimp entirely when I'm looking at those things. Like, sometimes, you still got to enjoy life too. So in doing that, we try to think about how much do we think our potential eating out expenses might add up to. So if we think about the cost of average breakfast, average lunch, average dinner, we can kind of think ahead of time. Okay, if I'm on vacation for 7 or 10 days, I will maybe roughly need $100 a day. I don't know. I'm just making that up, but imagine, allow yourself up to $100 a day per your eating out budget, let's say. So that's one way to think about how one can budget while on vacation.
Yeah, and I think there's some great tips here, Michelle. Thank you for sharing some of your tips. When speaking about eating out, you could also, a lot of restaurants serve big meals, so you could ask for a box. And a lot of hotels today have a fridge, so you could, have that extra meal, eat it for lunch the next day, or have it for dinner the day after. And for example, when I book a holiday, I usually use the same kind of hotel app to do it, which means that every 10th stay is free. So I do get some good deals through there. First of all, it's, I get some good deals through that, but also I compare prices. So I make sure, the price is cheaper here, but then I also get an extra night for free. And I've used that many times to actually, upgrade to a better hotel maybe than I would have actually stayed at. I also use the same frequent flyer program when I travel and actually get some perks through there. And then I do the thing about, like eating out. Like, for example, today I ate lunch out. I'm on holiday right now at the Olympics. Ta-ta. But later today, like I'm also full for today. The lunch was a big lunch. So I might eat, a cracker or a snack later, but I actually got so much food for lunch that I'm not going to be hungry the rest of the day. I'm going to drink lots of water. That's also a way to, continue to stay hydrated so that you don't eat too much food. And I think your idea about, we always do that as well, actually bring an empty bottle to the airport. So once you've actually on the other side of security, you can fill your bottle with water. So that's a great idea. We do that too. I actually also do spend some time planning on where to eat because, for example, on Google, you can see prices on many restaurants as well. You can see the menus. People are sharing photos of the menus, or you could go to the restaurant's website. So you can actually find some like highly rated local restaurant with amazing prices as well. And I had lunch at one of those places that was a local restaurant, highly rated, absolute amazing prices compared to potentially if I had been walking around and just found whatever place to actually eat lunch at. So that's definitely also something that you could do. And then the thing is about, bringing food. We usually don't do that because usually you can't bring food to another country. And when I travel, I usually travel abroad because I'm in Denmark. So, I understand that in the US it could potentially be different, but you could potentially bring your own food or shop groceries at the supermarket if you have a fridge, and then have some snacks or something that you could eat so you don't have to eat every meal out. And then the last thing is also hotel breakfast is expensive. So unless breakfast is included, and I know in the US there's a lot of hotels where breakfast is included, but here in Europe, usually you would have to pay extra. And what you can do instead is if you do eat breakfast, find a local bakery. If you're in France, buy some of the amazing French bread. It is so much cheaper to go to a local bakery. Some grocery stores have bakeries and actually have decent bread. So buying those super expensive hotel breakfast meals, what you could, or buffets or whatever they have, you could do it cheaper and then actually go find something local and save a lot of money on that.
Absolutely. And like you mentioned, those are wonderful tips that I keep in mind too and do as well when I'm in a foreign country. And I liked how you mentioned the frequent flyer program. That can be big savings for if you're traveling with bags and traveling with a companion. And if you're booking your reservation with the same frequent flyer program, often you and your companion's bags are free. So that's a great way to also have some savings because checking in bags can cost hundreds of dollars sometimes. So you want to try to save as much as you can. And if you don't have to take on that extra expense to bring some checked baggage, then you'll be in a better shape and get to use that money to maybe enjoy some of the finer things in life, like fine French wine or something, wherever you may be going, if it's in France or elsewhere. And yeah, I mean, I think if people try to think a little bit about ahead of time what their expenses will be, like I have a high level idea of what I think my expenses might be, but then afterwards, I also make a little spreadsheet and count up my expenses and compare, oh, how was this ski trip that I spend money on this time? How did that compare to last time I went on a ski trip? Did I pay more or less for lodging? Did I pay more or less for the ski tickets or the transportation and other factors that go into my ski trips, and maybe that will inform me like, oh, while this was a good ski mountain, maybe I won't go to that one next time because the lodging was just so expensive. Maybe we'll go to another mountain where the lodging is less, but it's just as good of a mountain, if not better. So those are some of the things that I do to think about my expenses overall after a trip. And also there are a lot of apps out there that can help people know what their expenses were. So I'm pretty sure there are apps out there that can take a feed from your credit card expenses and it can say, oh, these were all your expenses related to something. And you can have sort of idea of kind of what your spending rate is and if you think that's normal for when you go on vacation or not. So there's so many kinds of tips and tricks out there that can help you be better informed about what you're spending for your vacations, and maybe you make better decisions next time when you plan a similar kind of trip. So we hope that this sort of tips about planning a budget with your vacation was helpful, and we hope that wherever you go on vacation this summer or in the future that you have a wonderful time and that it doesn't break the bank.
Yeah, and with that, happy vacation, and we'll be back on Tuesday.
If you enjoyed the show and found the content informational, we would be super grateful if you would leave us a review and follow us wherever you get your podcasts so you automatically get new episodes in your feed. We publish a new show every Tuesday.
The contents of the Investing Mastermind podcast are for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. None of this is investing advice, and if you need help in your personal situation, please consult with a professional.